Okay, I want to introduce Jim, KN6OON. Come on up here, Jim. I know a few things about Jim. One is I know he's very, very smart. In fact, I called him brilliant earlier. You work at HRO, so how many people have seen Jim down at HRO? Good. So they're already familiar with you. Why am I introducing you? Okay, so I do know another thing about him. He is a bioengineer, correct?
Yes, I'm a bioengineer by major. My passion is in IT, in fact. So I'm kind of going back to my roots here with amateur radio, helping others out. I really enjoy just teaching technology and making things work for others. It puts a smile on my face at the store and someone comes in with a radio, some parts, or anything they really need help with. Once it's all right in front of them working together, it really puts a smile on my face. So I hope to continue to do that.
Good. Well, I want to thank Jim for coming tonight. He's going to talk to us about what I call embedded computers. Am I calling it the right thing?
Yes, yes.
Excellent. So let's welcome Jim.
All right, good evening, everyone. I'm Jim, KN6OON, and tonight I will be presenting about embedded computers in amateur radio, uses, benefits, and issues involved with this. So, just brief introduction. In here, embedded computers are defined as general-purpose computing devices that are a secondary function of some other device. So rather than, say, a personal computer or a cell phone, which it's a computer by definition, this is something that's hidden away. It serves to enhance the functionality of the device, but it is not the device itself. So, like it or not, computers are everywhere. I'm pretty sure. I mean, back in the day, you had a car, right? You just turn it on, you can see the gears turning, and everything's right in front of you. Yeah, not anymore. These days, you're basically driving a computer on wheels. And yeah, so back in the day of TV, right? There's a surplus radar tube in there. You can see the round screen, and it just took in signals and swept it across the screen. Fine and dandy. Nowadays, that's just a big computer monitor, really. It's taking a digital signal and decoding a digital signal. Your phone, right? It's also a computer these days. And yeah, your radio, that good old tube radio you used to have, well, yeah, this is the new 101. That, too, is a computer. But thanks to advances in manufacturing and improvements in microchip lithography processes, computers are getting put into just about everything. And yeah, I mean everything. Yep, even your door lock is just a computer now. Why? Why do we have all this? Well, the first thing is power savings. So moving from discrete analog components to a single chip computer affords a major power saving. And everything is about protecting the environment, green energy. So yeah, power savings is probably one of the biggest reasons why everything is computerized rather than being discrete components. And as I mentioned before, size reduction. Everyone wants things that are smaller, easier to carry, and easier to ship, to place on containers and send across. And last but not least, there's field upgradability. So rather than the serviceman coming down to your location and swapping out parts, we can now just push updates over the air, and you can get a new upgraded device, or sometimes possibly even completely new functionality. And there's also ease of use for some. And the pace of technology is moving so fast that sometimes we fall behind. There's so many things just hidden behind menus that used to be right in front of you. So I hope that in my presentation I will kind of demystify a lot of the stuff with modern technology, and hopefully some people here learn a thing or two. So specifically with regards to amateur radio, I want to go through a couple of things you can do with the new equipment these days that all have computers in them. So something that I do a lot, and possibly some of you as well, is remote control. Now we'll go over that one by one afterward. There's also streamlining of operations, and you can build prototypes and projects with relatively inexpensive general-purpose microcomputers. So let's start off with remote control, which you can work your station away from your station. So say you were in a hotel overseas and you wanted to work your QTH. You can do that. And with modern radios, you could break it into 3 different platforms. There's a couple of radios that you can operate wirelessly. You connect it to your wireless LAN and it communicates over the internet. Then there are others that don't have Wi-Fi but do have built-in Ethernet servers. And so with that, you connect it with a wire into your router or modem and get to the internet from the radio. And for some other ones, usually the lower priced or more basic models, it requires a dedicated PC to act as the server. But one way or the other, most modern radios have a way to let you remotely access it from anywhere with an internet connection. Now, before you start saying, wow, that's cool, there's a couple of things to keep in mind. And this is a common issue for most people, and that's network configuration. So, of course, that has to do with all the wiring, but also, more importantly, there's something you can't see, and that is called port forwarding. So most home internet services are actually behind a router built into your cable modem. It's designed so that devices in your home by default can't be accessed from the internet. So if you wanted to set up your radio or security camera or just about anything else within your home network for access from the internet, you have to go into your router and forward the port. Now, once you've done that, there is something that's probably even more important, and I'm sure you all know what that is, and that is security settings. Make sure you have a strong password. So on your radio, it's usually somewhere in the settings menu that you can set up a username and a password. So you got to keep that password real secret, because if someone had that password, they can get onto your radio and transmit from anywhere on the internet. So yeah, be sure to write a secure password. And finally, maintaining control. FCC regulations say that if you do want to operate your station remotely, you must be in control of it at all times. And here's a quick story about maintaining control of a remotely controlled station. So back in March of this year, there was a nationwide fox hunt that took place. There was a 50-watt carrier over on 40 meters, and it went on day and night. And it turns out that some ham with a remotely controlled transceiver, it malfunctioned due to RFI getting back into the control line. It lost connection to the internet while keyed up. 50-watt carrier. And it just went and went and went until they finally found it. So yeah, what happened here? Of course, the transceiver malfunctioned and the operator was unaware until they were contacted by the FCC. Yeah, so this brings a lesson that you should always have a way of remotely shutting down your station in the event of a malfunction. And depending on the nature of your remote station, this can be through the internet, or if you're in a more remote area without reliable internet access, through a phone line. And I'll go over a couple of devices that will do that. So this here, it's a internet-controlled power strip. Each of those outlets is remotely controllable. Yes, that power strip has a built-in web server. You log into it and you can remotely toggle each socket on and off. But what if you're in a place like a remote cabin or somewhere where you don't have high-speed internet? Well, there's this thing which is basically a telephone-controlled switch. You dial into it, press 1 to turn on input 1, press 2 to turn off input 1. Hook those to a relay, now you've got a telephone-controlled switch. But wait, I know some of you out there are even in more remote areas where you don't even have landline. Well, there's the equivalent of that with the cellular modem. So yeah, there are multiple ways to turn things on and off remotely. So if you do want to remotely control your shack, whether it's in your main house or in a remote cabin, a vacation home, always have a way to turn it off even when you aren't there. Now I'm going to talk about how you can streamline your amateur radio operations with a newer radio. So you can record QSOs, and that's real nice because sometimes you missed a call sign or you want to go back and say, what did I talk about on that day? Well, you can record it straight on the radio to an SD card or a USB drive and relive your best contacts. You can automate the logging process, and what that means is you can run logging software. There are multiple software, both free and paid, that will talk to your radio. It will gather the mode, the frequency, and the time straight off of your radio and log that automatically for you. So if you do any contesting or hunting for DX, you now have a way to track that. And so QRZ, I'm not sure, probably no one here uses that. There's actually a method to track your progress toward awards. So that's something that really helps a lot. So if you wrote everything down on, say, a paper logbook, and you, like, a couple months down the line, you want to go, how many countries did I make contacts with? Rather than manually looking through that logbook, if it's all automatically logged, you can just pull that right up. Of course, things happen. It could be fire, flood, or nearby lightning strike. And other times, no matter how much we baby our computers, things just happen. You wake up one day, turn it on, you get this message. So when disaster strikes, the last thing you want to be worried about are your documents and data. So make regular backups so you don't lose it. That especially applies to long-term documents that you're keeping around, like, say, your logbook or your recordings or just about anything that you plan to keep around long-term. Documents on most audio recordings are small enough that you can just keep them on free cloud storage. So there's really nothing to lose here and just about everything to gain. So if you do decide to automate your amateur radio operations and computerize it, make regular backups. You'll be glad you did. It's something that you never want to pull out, but when the time comes, you'll really wish you had them. Finally, let's get to the most interesting and fun part of this. It's that you can build relatively cheap prototypes and projects. So one of the things that I've been really introduced to and I really love are multi-mode digital voice modems, or more commonly known as the hotspot. So what this is it's a little radio transceiver board that you attach onto a Raspberry Pi, which allows you to run your own digital repeater that can connect to DMR, YSF, D-Star, I think P25, and it'll also act as a pager. So I know a lot of you probably know that W6EK has the 440 System Fusion repeater. So if you're within range of it, you can use that. You can talk on that repeater to others in the area, or you can connect to any other YSF room on the internet. But what if you were away from that repeater, or basically, what if you were away from any digital repeater, but you wanted to enjoy digital modes? Well, now you can with a relatively inexpensive hotspot. So these can be made for around $200 or purchased in a pre-made package with a case and LCD display for around $350. And you set it up once. You tell it which modes that you plan to use with it, and you put it somewhere inconspicuous in your house, and it's your own personal digital repeater. You can also build a weather station that is connected to APRS, so it sends out beacons within a configurable interval. And so I think on the net, we had someone talking about how they were planning to build that. They were about to take a weather station and connect it onto a embedded microcomputer, which will send out APRS beacons. And another thing that I've been starting to get into, not sure how I'm actually going to implement it, is a radio-controlled smart home. So imagine if you could control your appliances and lights in your house with your radio on, say, the 50 megahertz band. There is a band allocation specifically set aside for remote control. And there's multiple ways you can implement this. One of the hints I have is rolling code mechanism, same your garage door opener uses. So you can't mount a replay attack on it, but you having that list of codes can remotely control, say, any outlet or lamp in your house. Just a couple of things that might be interesting and insightful to experiment with. So I will close with some helpful hints and tips, especially these days with the availability of computer devices so limited. It's to consider scope and complexity to optimize cost. Yeah, the latest and greatest Raspberry Pi might be pretty good, but it's not much use if a $89 board is available online from third-party sellers at 3 or 4 times the cost. So chances are you might actually have something lying around, might not be current gen, but it might suffice for the project you're doing. So I encourage everyone, just take a look at what you have before spending 2-3 times the amount on something whose cost will most likely go back down to standard price once the supply chain starts moving again. And so this is the whole work around supply chain issues. Try to jerry-rig something around, experiment, see what you can pull with even a weaker model of an Arduino or Raspberry Pi. You'll be surprised at what that old dusty board in your drawer could do. Don't be afraid to consult others' notes and guides. I know a lot of us think that we're experimenting, we get into that mindset of, I want to try and pull this off myself. But good chance that someone else has done something very similar, so try to learn from others. And in line with that, share your findings if possible. We're all amateurs, so it would be helpful if we kind of share our ideas and posted our projects and insights online. So if you have any questions, you can contact me at my email. You can also find me on the repeater. I usually monitor during the mornings and afternoons. And you can also find me in person. You know where to find me. And with that, thank you all.
Questions?
Can I automatically turn on my hot tub with my radio?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, why not? Is that going to be a tough one?
Like turn on the radio remotely?
Remotely turn on my hot tub, or
yeah, you can. You definitely can. So
Yeah.
there are Wi-Fi and internet-controlled power outlets. There's light-duty and heavy-duty power outlets. So basically, a remote control setup, I envision, you would have a smart home hub. So a controller within your internal network connected to a radio transceiver or even just a receiver for that. And as long as you had the ability to transmit on the 50 megahertz band, you can turn on and off any device in your internal network.
So would it be activated through a DTMF?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Jim. Great job. Great presentation.